good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Please do say hello. This is the Smarter Career Moves LinkedIn live show. I'm Annette Richmond, and my guest, Lisa McPhee, is here with me today. I am so excited to have her. Please do, if you have any questions, you feel free to put them in the chat. We will be able to see them backstage here, and I'm sure Lisa will graciously answer them for you as I pull them up on the screen. And so again, let's get going with this. Lisa, I met you, I think it was sometime last year. We collaborated a couple times on Clubhouse, got to know you better on LinkedIn, and I'm so excited that you said yes and are here with me today. So for people who do not know you, please tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Thanks, Annette. Well, thanks for the invitation. I'm super excited to be here. My name's Lisa McPhee, and I am a career and confidence coach, and I work with women who feel stuck in a job they hate. We work together to connect to their purpose and transition to their dream career. Yeah, so I started my business or my coaching academy in 2019 after working about too many years. We'll say 20 plus. We'll just start with that. 20 plus years in consulting and people management and people supply chain management. And so I've been doing that ever since, and it's so much fun.
Well, that's great. So I see our friend Jillian Whitney is here. Jillian, your ears must have been ringing because we were just talking about you a couple of moments ago. So thank you for joining us this morning. We're so happy to have you here. Again, if you're out there in the audience, please do say hello and tell us where you are joining from. So Lisa, I love that one of your specialties is really just helping your clients develop the confidence. In my personal and professional experience, attitude really can make all the difference. I read a book a few years ago, attitude is everything. And I think to some degree, it actually is, it can be all the difference as to whether you succeed, whether it's with a business, getting that job, or whatever. So, but I don't see a lot of coaches working in this area. You actually are the only one that I know right now. So why did you choose this area?
Oh, amazing. I love that question. Well, I 100% agree with you that attitude is everything. I think we may have even collaborated on something else and talked about this because it's so, so important. And I know that from my personal experience, my attitude has definitely, been probably the number one contributing factor to my success, because if you think about skills can be taught, skills can be learned, right? But it's really difficult to change your attitude. And confidence, when I started, I'm not even gonna say when I started my academy, because before that, when I was working with women and men, I worked with both genders, but predominantly women, the thing that they said that was holding them back the most from going after their dreams, whether that was, their career aspirations or outside, was confidence. And so the more that I started working with women on the, giving them the strategies and the tactical things, what was really prevalent was that in order for them to get those things, they really needed to develop confidence. And so, yeah, that's how it came about. I would say I was intentional about it, but also it came out of necessity.
Yeah, it is true. And, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I see that with the people that I work with as well, the women that I work with, senior executives on the, top of their career, but lacking that confidence. And, I've looked on your LinkedIn profile, and I noticed that you started, before you started the coaching academy, you held a corporate position that focused on empowering women. So, is that part of what led you to launch your coaching academy and, just keep that focus on women?
Yeah. So prior to starting this, I worked for a large global consulting company. And my actual role within the company, the role I got paid for, was managing the people supply chain. So, when we won projects, all the projects that we had, I was responsible for ensuring that we had the right people with the right skills at the right level in the seats to, fill up the project plan. And in addition to that, my passion projects, like my passion jobs, where I had an opportunity to lead the employee resource group for gender balance within the organization. And keep in mind, it was a global organization. It was headquartered in Paris, which was amazing. And so I had that role, which was a volunteer role, gave me the opportunity to speak on global stages and really interact with women, not just from North America, but from all over the world, to help their particular countries just bridge the gap and do whatever they needed to do internally to make the workplace more inclusive for women. And so that role really gave me an opportunity to connect with women from across the globe. And inevitably, after I gave a presentation, what would happen is both, I will say, men and women, because the men would come to me and say, Lisa, I love what you're saying, and I would love to support women, and I'd love to support this initiative, but I'm just not sure how. And I think that coming in and telling a woman how I can support them doesn't really align with your message, right? So they were amazing. And so it's true, though. People say to me all the time, how can I support women? And I have a lot of things I tell them is ask them, first of all, and create an environment where they feel comfortable saying it. But the women would say to me, they take me aside and say, I love what you're doing. How do I get to my next level? And I would say, what's holding you back? And they would always say confidence. Always, always, always. And it was just so interesting. And Annette, I'm sure you find this in your work as well. It doesn't matter what level you're at, right? It could be somebody who's just at the consultant level that wants to get to senior consultant. It could be somebody who's at the senior manager level that wants to get to the executive ranks. And it could be somebody at the executive ranks that wants to get to the C-suite, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter. And everybody kind of struggles with the same thing and tells themselves all these stories about why they can't have what they want, because, the brain has a negativity bias. So it's fascinating.
Oh, I know, it's so true. We have that little voice in our head, and it's never, my little voice is never saying, oh, Annette, you are rocking it. It's saying, maybe you ought to hold back a little bit. And we do, have that. And, it's never, mine is never nice to me. So I have to try to ignore that. I really think of it more as the inner critic, even than the little voice. But, you are so right. I work with a lot of, I work with probably an equal number of male and female executives. The women are at the top of their game. They are, leaders. They are senior level roles in corporate, national, international corporations. And yet they don't recognize how amazing they are. And I should say they often don't. And when I present their documents to them, which are based in fact, it's not fluff. Yeah. It's not saying, oh, I dramatically did this or that, but I did this, and this is the outcome, and here's how we measured it. They're a little bit like, I'm not sure. I don't want to feel like I'm bragging. And so, do you find sort of that aspect as well?
Yes. 100% yes. Right. Why do you ask questions you know the answer to? No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that why is, we've been programmed, women have been programmed our whole lives, starting with when we're little girls. I know I was told by my family, I guess it depends what era you grew up in, because certainly my kids were never told these things, but be a good girl, sit there and be quiet. Good girls are seen and not heard. And then as you kind of grow up, you're told things like, don't get too big for your bridges. Don't forget where you came. I remember when I grew up in a really small small town community. And I moved to the big city of Toronto, and I was told when I'd go back home, oh, she doesn't remember. Don't forget where you came from. like my career success is something that I shouldn't talk about. Don't toot your own horn. Or even the flip side of that, hard work pays off. Hard work should pay for itself. I got newsflash. It does not. It does not.
Yeah, it's true. I have mentioned this even on social media. I think, I was the first grandchild in my family. And my grandfather was so disappointed that I was not a boy. I should have been the boy to be the first grandchild. And, while my dad loved having a little girl, his expectations of me were to be that I would be pretty and I would be, fun, but not to be smart or be a leader or, anything like that. And so I certainly hear that. And, I do have a question for you. And this is really leading up to it, a question from Jillian. What are your thoughts on the fake it till you make it approach to confidence? So if that will lead us into our next segment. So what's your response?
What are my thoughts on the fake it till you make it approach? Okay, I do not enjoy that language. However, sometimes I do think that you can borrow confidence from somebody else. And what I mean by that is if you see somebody that you admire and they're successful in an area where you want to be successful in, you can borrow their confidence by reminding yourself of the things that you've done and overcome, to get to the level you're at, wherever that is. And so sometimes you see somebody you admire, you put them at a higher level, but if you really kind of train your brain to get that gremlin out of there, and we can talk about what that looks like a little bit later, then you can borrow that from somebody else. So I guess what I would say is fake it till you make it. I don't know that I like that language, but I would borrow confidence from somebody else if I felt that I needed, to pump myself up a little bit. And, there's tools that you can use. Does that answer your question?
No, I think that's great. And Jillian is welcome to go back if she wants more clarification on that. And, people are giving you the thumbs up on that. So people are agreeing with you. So that kind of leads me to the next question that I have for you, because I would certainly be, remiss if I was not asking you, for people who are watching in the audience or on the replay, if you can give a few tips or techniques, maybe 3, for women and men, because I know some of my male clients have that same issue, that can really help them start to develop their confidence, like that they can start today.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I would say set a goal, or think of one thing that you want to be more confident in. Like, what would you do if you had more confidence? I pose this question all the time. So this is an easy question for me. Thanks. Think of something that you do, but your lack of confidence is holding you back. And so, for your audience, it could be, I don't know, making yourself more visible on social media. For my audience, it could be asking for a salary increase or promotion, whatever. Just think of something. Now, what are you telling yourself? What are all the reasons you're telling yourself you can't do the thing you want to do? Because again, we know, like you said, it's the gremlins, right? It's the gremlins in your head telling you all the things you can't, all the reasons why you can't do what you want to do. And these are usually negative things. So write them down, write down all the things, okay? So that you have your list. Then ask yourself, I do this all the time. It's so great. Then ask yourself, is this really true, right? Is this really true? And I promise you, in the moment, you're probably thinking, well, it is true. I don't want to. So say, we'll just use the putting yourself on video. What do people usually say to you if you ask them to be more visible?
Well, they're nervous about being on video. I'll give you an example from me. For years, I was knew I should be on video, but I wanted to be thinner. I wanted to be younger, better looking. And one day I realized that it's not me, really. It's the message, which I learned actually from a speech coach, that people are not looking at you. They're interested in what you say.
Sure. Yeah. So people don't want to look stupid. Okay. So that's a perfect example. Same as asking for a salary increase. Well, I don't want to sound stupid. What if I don't know as much as I think I know? So ask yourself the question, is that really true? And in the moment, you might think it's really true. You might think well, no, I'm 5 pounds more than I've ever been. And, I definitely looked better last year because I was a year younger. And, so you will tell yourself all the reasons why you think that's true. But then you ask yourself okay, well, is this the ultimate truth? And the answer is no, it's not the ultimate truth, right? So then I'll ask myself, what else could be true? And this is a trigger question. I write down what is the opposite of what I'm thinking. And let me tell you, in the moment, you believe that what you're thinking is true, right? But what is the opposite of that? The opposite of that is, well, I look great. right? I look great. We're talking about your example. I look great. But you do look great. Do you know what I mean? Like, then look for evidence to support that belief. Like, what would you need to believe in order to do the thing you want? I would need to believe I'm smart enough. I would need to believe I'm not going to say something stupid. I would need to believe that I'm helping people. I would need to believe, and then find data to support, support that belief. Do you want to help people?
Yes. So that's true. And I agree with you. It's very much the afraid of criticism, I think.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If you hold yourself back and don't do the thing, then you're not doing what you really want to do, which is reach more people and help them, because people don't, this is what I've learned. People don't care what you look like. People don't care. Look, we're all smart. Everybody's smart. We're all smart. Can we all agree to stop telling ourselves that we're stupid? Can we all just agree?
Yes, people in the audience agree.
I don't know why we do that, because we would never talk to our best friend the way or to anybody. I would never talk to a stranger on the internet the way I talk about, like, to myself about myself.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a comment from Michelle. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here. Michelle says, I've heard the expression that the negative screams at you and the positive only whispers. How do we silence and reflect on and move on from the negative? Not let it deter us or shake our confidence. Great question. Are you ready for that, Lisa?
Such a good question, Michelle. Hi, Michelle. I'm so excited to see you here. Okay, let me just read it again. Yes, of course the negative screams louder, because our brain's only job is to keep us safe, And so, growth lies on the other side of our comfort zone. So anytime we're stretched to the max, our brain is saying, oh, don't go there, don't do that, because, in caveman times, that was its job. But today, we all live in houses and we don't need to stay safe, right? So how you do that, Michelle, is you really have to recognize, okay, the first step is just to recognize it when that negative thought comes up. If you can catch it, you can decide what you want to do with it. So here's what I would invite you to do. Just recognize that you can't control your thoughts, but you can, and you are in charge of what you do with those thoughts, right? So you don't have to believe every stupid thing you think. Oh my gosh, if I believed every stupid thought that came into my head, I've literally trained my brain. When it shows up, I have this crazy saying that might not resonate with everybody, but I'm like, not today, Satan, not today. Like, I do not have time for you today. And then I tell myself the total opposite. And I've conditioned my brain to do that. And I'm not going to suggest that it's easy, but even that you're asking that question tells me that you are on your way to the other side of that.
Yeah, I love that. And that actually, excuse me, brings me to the next area that I wanted to talk with you about. You are also a career coach. And I noticed on your website that you have 5 steps to get unstuck in your career. And as I read through them, most of them seem to just focus on changing your mindset. Yeah. That you need to change the mindset in order to get unstuck. So if you could share just 3 steps, 3 tips from that list, if you like, or something else that someone can start today, because so many people do feel stuck in their jobs.
I would say start by really identifying what you want, because people don't take that time. They really don't. Or people will come to me and say, I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. You can start with that. What's the opposite of what you don't want to do, right? Because I feel like that's almost the same as the negativity bias. I don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. It's because you've not been trained or taught to really focus on forward momentum. And it's not your fault. Like, it's not our fault that we do this. We've literally been programmed, but recognize that you have control over that. Like, you have autonomy over you and what you want to do. So really define what you want to do. And it's interesting that you said it focuses on mindset, because everybody comes for the strategy, right? The strategy. And if it was that easy, we can all get the strategy for free on the internet and I would never have a job. Right? Like, we sign up for strategy, but we stay for mindset, because once you're in, I mean, any kind of coaching program or any kind of program where there's mentorship and somebody who's helping you, you really recognize, or what comes to light is all of your limiting beliefs. So decide what you want, find yourself an advocate or somebody who can support you in reaching your goal and keep you accountable, and then just create just one thing you can do today. One thing you can do today that's going to identify one thing you can do today that's going to get you to that next step. And that one thing could just be identify a mentor, identify somebody that can help you, that can be your advocate.
So one of the things that stood out to me in that 5 things was to tell someone. And my thought is that leads to accountability. But is that what it is? Is it more than that? What is that big reason behind, sharing your issue with someone else?
It's just getting comfortable saying it out loud, because oftentimes we suppress our dreams and we're afraid to say what we really want, because if we say it out loud, then we're giving ourselves permission to go for it.
Oh, okay. So that sounds like a bit of the fear of success. Is that play into that at all?
I mean, definitely the fear of success is a real thing. I would say in this instance, it's the fear of success or the fear of failure. Once you say it out loud, then you're asking for accountability, but you're almost telling yourself, like, once you say something out loud, if you don't complete the mission or go forward with it or even explore it more, you're almost letting yourself down. And when you keep it to yourself, you can just keep it to yourself. Nobody knows.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So Jillian came back and said, that's a tweetable. We signed up for strategy for change, stay for the mindset. And I see that to a degree also with the clients that I work with, because part of what I do with them is to have them see their career in a different way than they have been looking at it in the years that they've been, sitting in their chair and just progressing up the ladder, so to speak. And one of the things also is, I saw on LinkedIn and also on your website that most of your clients are sort of the 45 to 55 age. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about ageism. I mean, there's so many isms out there, and we know they're there. They are what they are. And a lot of it, I think, is our mindset and attitude. But I've had female friends of mine tell me that they start feeling it around 40.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've even had clients younger than that say, I agree. It is a real thing. It is a real thing. And if it exists in an organization, it's not an organization you want to be a part of. And therefore, I don't think that that's where your focus should be, frankly. Yeah. Because here's the thing, where this is not my saying, but where focus goes, energy flows. And if you are focused on ageism and how things are unfair and all of the things you don't want, that more of that's going to show up in your life. And that might sound a bit woo for people, and it might be too much, and I'm okay with that. But it's true, right? So I think that training, again, with the training your brain and reminding yourself that with age comes experience, right? Do you want to hire somebody that is just out of college and sure, they have a degree, you also have a degree, and you have 30 years of experience, and you know how to save the company money, and you know how to bring in clients, and, right? Mm-hmm. So remind yourself of that. And if somebody doesn't appreciate that, then they're not your person. They're not your company.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of that goes to the whole idea of culture. I worked in publishing for a while, and I went from publishing, which is, fast paced and magazine issues coming up, blah, 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 all the time. I went from that to nonprofit, where it was more, well, you relax. It's nothing that doesn't have to be done today, could be done tomorrow. And it was just a really bad fit for me, although I believed in the organization. It was just not a good fit. So I love that you say that, you want to be wherever is a good fit for you. But when it comes to the culture and the attitude, I always think of when I was recruiting. I worked with a woman, a candidate. I was third party contingency, so we were working for a client, and she shared with me that she was in her, I think, early mid 60s at the time. I certainly didn't ask her.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just bright and energetic and just such a cool person. And I was working in the digital marketing space at the time, which was a young industry.
Mm-hmm.
And she was, excuse me, she was one of the top candidates for a position. I didn't place her myself, but she was one of the top picks.
Mm-hmm.
And she found a job shortly after. And I really believe that it was her attitude, because as you say, you bring more of it into your life, but I think you also will see it, even if it's not there. I talk to people and they assume it's ageism. That's the reason, or another ism.
Sure. Yeah. Look, it's no different than if you want to buy a white Tesla, you see them everywhere. Right? It's so true, though. What you're looking for, you will find. And if you're looking for data to support there's ageism, you'll find it. If you're looking for data to support that companies now really care about work culture, they're really making, they're even putting money into it, which means that it matters. And those companies exist and those companies are available. So both options are available to you. So choose the option that serves you best. And I don't think ageism serves any of us best.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. And you have to focus on what you are in control of, not things that you are not in control of. And one of the things I also saw is that you do work with people on telling them when it is helping them recognize when it is time to quit their job. I know the last corporate job I had, I would feel sick when I was in the elevator going up to the office, and I gained 10 pounds because I comforted myself with, Reuben sandwiches for lunch and things like that, made me feel better because I was so unhappy.
Yeah.
And what would you say if you could share, because I saw some on your site, 3 things that will tell you if people are thinking, do I need to leave? What are 3 things that you think is really, if you have this, if you see this, it's time to go?
Yeah. Number 1 is if you're working in a toxic environment. And what I mean by that is if you are losing sleep over your job on a regular basis, it is causing you physical anxiety and stress and sleepless nights. Now, I'm not talking about if you're, when I was working in consulting and we had a big project that was going live, there are stressful times, or if you're a lawyer and you're, and in trial and you're, waiting for the verdict. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about every single day you are finding yourself waking up in the middle of the night, or even worse, you can't get any sleep, or you are not in a place where you're well, where your health, your mental and your physical health, when you are unwell, or you're working in a place where you are devalued on a regular basis, you need to leave. Because what's going to happen is every single day you stay in that environment, it costs you more and more and more. And what I mean by that is your relationships, your health, all of it. That's number 1. I'm super passionate about that because, Annette, I talk to women all the time who are like, okay, so I'm going to have to go on stress leave and I don't feel comfortable doing that, but it's the only way I can take a day off. And I that hurts my heart. I had one woman who actually said to me, I went to the hospital to get a brain scan because I thought I had a brain tumor because the stress and the pain in her head was so high. Like she was hospitalized. So that's number 1.
Okay.
On the flip side of that, I would say if there's no opportunity for advancement, look, we all crave growth. And if there's no opportunity for advancement and you've talked to your boss and look, maybe you had a good run, maybe you grew as much as you could in that organization and there's nowhere else to go and you've talked to your boss loves you and will support you in whatever you decide. If you can do your job with your eyes closed and you're just putting in your time and like, waiting for the years to go by so you can retire. That is no way to live. What if you don't have tomorrow? Today's my last day. I'm happy I spent this hour here with you,
Yeah, no, I agree with you so much. And I read statistics recently in the last couple of years as the Great Resignation has turned into sort of the Great Reshuffle, where people are just at the point where they're looking for someplace where they're going to be able to grow, or they're going to be able to feel, aligned with the company vision or things like that. And it is becoming more, I don't know if it's more important, but people are realizing that, things change and they want to, with COVID, they realize that you never know, and they want to make the best of it. Can you give us one last tip for?
Yeah, sure. If you're grossly under earning and you know it, then you should just leave. I mean, listen, women in particular, most women are under earning, and sometimes you don't know it, but most times you do. And look, I've been, I've classified myself in this category previously where I was told, especially early in my career, where can you go and make this much money? Because I was fortunate enough to make a decent salary pretty early in my career. And the companies will brainwash you to think, where can you go and make this much money? I will tell you that I have a client who, was making a very decent salary, probably about $250,000. And her next job was 100% more than her current job. And while that might sound like a lot to somebody, it might sound like where they want to be. It doesn't matter if you're making $40,000 or $400,000. If you want to be making more, you deserve more, then go out and get more. It's possible.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. It is so true. And a lot of it all just goes back to the whole confidence and self-worth that people need to develop.
Yeah. And yes. And belief in yourself. And here's the thing, when it comes to salary, I love this topic so much. I'm so passionate about it because your salary level is never going to outperform your belief in your worth, like your belief that you are worthy of that dollar amount. Right. So, I talk to women who are making $60,000 and they want to make $100,000. I'm like, cool, let's talk about that. What does that look like? If you got offered, if I gave you a job offer right now and said your salary is $100,000, how do you feel about that? And usually they'll be excited in the moment, and then they'll say things to themselves like, "Oh my gosh, what if I can't perform at that level? What do I have to do that?" Like, after the excitement wears off, they start freaking out.
Yeah. No, it's true. And, that's so true with people who are independent or consultants or people like us too. They have, you have to really know your worth and believe that you are worth, being paid for your services. So I love that. Yeah. I'm sorry, did you want to add something?
No, I was just going to agree with you. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, your salary, whether you're employed for yourself and you're charging people for your services, you're never going to make more money than you believe you are worth. And so I would encourage anyone to work on that, to work on their belief in their worthiness.
So my next question is, and I feel like I'm already knowing what the answer is going to be, but what do you enjoy most about what you do?
Oh, I enjoy most my client breakthroughs and their success. And so you would think what I enjoy most is when they get the job and the salary increase, but I just feel like that's a given, right? What I enjoy the most is their breakthroughs, like when they really start taking ownership. So typically, I'll just give you a typical example. Typically, when people come to work with me, they're feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, like, there's a lot of they mentality, meaning they just expect me to work 60 hours, Lisa. I can't take my time back. And, now my husband is just mad at me and I'm short with my kids and I just don't know what to do. When they start to realize that they have autonomy over their lives and they, like, literally, you choosing to take your time back is your choice. And, we don't just say, don't go to work. Like when you're used to working 6 hours, there's some steps, right? But when they really just start to take ownership and really believe that they have the power and they have autonomy over their lives, that is what I enjoy. That's probably the number one thing, when just getting my clients to recognize that it's all about them and that's okay.
When that little light bulb goes on, right?
Yeah. And it happens, like sometimes it happens in just overnight. And then seeing people too, I work with the signature program I have is 8 weeks, and we kind of work through being from stuck to fulfilled. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, you have all the tools you need to get the job you want. But then I also have a back end program. And when people work with me over time and I see them like a year from when we started, and we always start our coaching calls with celebrations. And when they say things like, Lisa, I met with an old colleague last week and they just said, I just can't believe you're even the same person. You just seem so happy and relaxed. And yeah, it's so cool to hear them say that. And even just to see it, to see that transformation, that is what truly lights my heart on fire.
Well, that's great. I love that too. So what, I'd like you to share a little bit, what's something about you that would surprise people?
Oh, what's something about me that would surprise people? Okay, well, I'm really outgoing, so there's a lot of things that wouldn't surprise people. Let me think. I'm from a very small town of 400 people. And while I've traveled all over the world through my corporate gigs, the first time I wasn't on an airplane until I was 18 years old.
Wow. I was older than that. And I grew up in a pretty large inner city, and I wasn't on a plane until I was in my 20s. So what do you think is the difference, of living, since live in Toronto, but you were from and that is a very small town. Mm-hmm. What would you say is kind of the biggest difference that you might see?
Oh, just opportunity for sure. Opportunity and diversity, and just really more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings. And, having had an opportunity to travel the world. And when I worked my consulting job, I worked predominantly in North America. So I was in the United States almost always. That's where my client base was. And just the difference is opportunity. So it is my belief that the world is your oyster. And I know not everyone believes that, but I believe that. And when I spend time at home with my family in a small community, it's very communal and very loving, and everybody's great. There's no, but it's also very conformist. You'll hear language such as, she's not like us, or they're not like us, and things like that, which I think is hilarious, because that is what I celebrate. I just want to be hanging out with people like me. Where's the fun in that? And also, how do you grow? And they also, I think another big difference is people just tend to accept what comes. Because again, the conditioning and the programming and the generational beliefs that are passed down, that the small towns and small communities and people that's all of their life experience has been in that place, then they don't even recognize that belief isn't their own. It was passed down.
No, that is really interesting. I live in the sort of the New York metro area, and I feel so fortunate to have, I've lived in this space my entire life, but there's so much diversity here. And I think that's a really good thing, because the more you know people who, may have a different religion or whatever, and you realize that, we're really all just the same. I think that really helps the sort of the world in general.
Yeah. And it allows you to have conversations where you recognize that we're all the same, like we're all inside. Like we're all, we're all good, we're all human. And if you don't have an opportunity to have those conversations with people who maybe, and I'm not just talking about people who don't look like you, people that have different thoughts and different belief systems, and having those conversations really help you understand kind of maybe where your thought or your belief system it might not even be yours, is what I'm saying. Like it could
Yeah.
be something that was passed down to you that you just never questioned because you didn't have an opportunity to question it. So I love it. I totally agree with you.
So I mentioned to you that I do ask all of my guests to give me a question for my next guest. And the question that I have for you is, what career mistake has given you the biggest lesson?
Oh,
I know, big one.
what career mistake has given you the biggest lesson? Ooh, that's a good question. I've had so many career mistakes.
Oh, haven't we all?
I would say, well, I mean, there's one in particular. I remember I was staffing a huge project, and I was pretty new in the role, and I hired somebody for a job without basically the person that this new employee was going to report to was off on vacation, and I hired this person at a salary that was kind of above the grade because we needed this skill. Like, it was a very unique skill and it was for a particular project and we needed the skill. So I talked to another VP who approved it. And then when she came back, she lost her mind because now she had this basically new hire that was going to report to her, and it was going to cause a lot of conflict within the team if people found out that he was making, because it was above the salary grade. And he didn't have more experience than other people. He just had experience in this particular area. Mm-hmm. And so what that taught me was not to just, I mean, really the lesson was, because I just thought, okay, this we need this skill. And I wanted to make this particular SVP happy, like senior vice president happy. And I didn't even consider her feelings. If I'm being honest, I didn't consider her feelings at all. I was only concerned with making this senior vice president happy and staffing the role and getting one more check off of my resource plan, because there's about 100 people in that. And and so when she came back, she was really upset, and we had a conversation. And I remember not wanting to talk to her, because I was pretty, like I said, I was pretty new in that role, and it was pretty early in my career with that organization. And what I learned from that was to really be respectful of the hiring, the hierarchy within an organization, and not to just think that the person at the top is the most important, because they're not. And also in this case, we talked it out and came up with a plan, but I could have really saved myself and saved her a lot of heartache if I would have just been more respectful of her role and her position.
Well, yeah, that sounds like a good lesson. And, it is so often, I think, a mistake that we all make. I know that I make myself, is assuming what somebody's going to think about something instead of finding out exactly what that is. So, so we are getting down to the end of our time together, and I want to ask you two things.
Sure.
One, if there's anything that I have not asked you that you think is important to talk about, please share that, and give people a little of an idea of how they can connect with you, things that, they might be able to reach you, connect on LinkedIn, etc.
Sure. I think you've asked a lot of amazing questions. This was so much fun, Annette. Thank you so much for having me. I think what I just like everybody to leave with is to really lean into trust, lean into trusting yourself, and lean into believing in yourself and telling yourself why you can have the thing you want. And if you don't believe it today, then look for beliefs that you can borrow, right? Like, really lean into asking better questions, like, what do I have to do to make this happen, instead of telling yourself all the reasons why you can't have what you want, because I promise you, both options are available to you, but only one option serves you. And how can you find me? My website is lisamcphee.com. I'm pretty easy to find, and I've been very lucky to get my name, Lisa McPhee, on all social media platforms. So that's awesome. I'm most visible on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm also available on YouTube and Instagram. And today I have a private Facebook group if you want to hop on over there and find me. And today I'm running day 3 of 4 days of a confidence series. So if you just search me on Facebook, you'll find my company name's Lisa McPhee Coaching Academy. And if you click on that, then there's a link to join my private Facebook group. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great because so many people listen to this on the replay or they listen to it actually on my podcast. So it's good for people to know how they can reach you in the future. So I thank you so much for saying yes. It's been such a pleasure to have you and a treat to chat with you. Thank you to everyone who has been with us. I know we have a couple of people I see have been with us the entire time. Thanks again. And you will see me back here next week at 11 a.m. Eastern for the Smarter Career Moves LinkedIn Live show.